This is Brian, ScreenFiles.com in review. What I'm looking at today is 2010's Yellowbrickroad, directed by Jesse Howell and Andy Middick. And this is a really good movie. Let me give you the story first though. The movie revolves around an incident in 1940 where 521 people, literally everyone in the town of Fryer, New Hampshire, embarked on this trail, and no one understands why it happened. So at the end of the day, of that 521 people, 300 were found dead. Some mutilated, some weren't. Though almost half, 221 of them, are unaccounted for. And so this is the story the entire movie revolves around. And it's also not true, as far as I'm aware. It evokes very much the Croatan story from Virginia, which is true, as well as the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia, which is also true. Though this one, not so much. Though it feels authentic, it has this air of authenticity to it that make it really chilling. So, in any case, 7 people, for various reasons, decide to investigate this path called the Yellowbrickroad to determine what went on. As I said, everyone has their own reasons for doing it. Some in the party are interested in cartography, which is mapping, and they want to map the area. Others are interested in writing about it. There's a photographer. So everyone has their own reasons for going on this trip. Though nothing goes quite as planned. And the question is, will the fate of those original people repeat itself? And the answer is, of course it will. What's so fascinating about Yellowbrickroad for me is not necessarily why things are happening, because the movie doesn't explain it. Events just happen. You have no explanation, neither do the characters in the movie, so they're just as blind as you are to what's behind their situation. The only thing that we know for a fact is that these people, as they journey along this path, are beginning to break down mentally, which is to say, they at first become irritable, and the further along they get, the more they begin hearing sounds, as in music, which in the wilderness shouldn't be. But the further they go, the louder it comes. And as a viewer, you're as much in the dark as these 7 individuals, because you also don't know why anything is happening. And the further they travel, the more it feels that their fears, their doubts, and suspicions about each other come to the fore as well. So they begin to prey on each other in various ways. It's not a particularly gory film, though it is, as I said, a fascinating one. It reminds me somewhat of Session 9, which is to say you have a movie based around the fact of people driven mad. And it's curiously well acted. It's not exactly typical that the actors in these type of movies do so with such class, and they elevate their roles, making everything that happens to them, no matter how odd, believable. It is a genre that I really enjoy watching, which essentially is the persons driven mad subgenre. It's a hard movie to classify. It's not particularly violent, though there are moments of violence. It's not particularly gory, though there are moments of gore. It's just almost like a character study of what happens to people when they are caught within circumstances way beyond not only their control, but their understanding, and what it drives them to do. And normally I don't like movies like Yellowbrickroad if they're not done as well as it happens to be. Because, as I said earlier, it doesn't tell you why anything is happening. The only thing that you know is that based upon the police reports of what happened to the town, that it seems to be repeating itself. You don't understand why anything's happening, though I do have theories. If you watch the movie, and I hope you do, there's a feeling of inevitability about the way things proceed, which is to say, the characters seem to be caught in a cycle of sorts. I mention this because you have to pay close attention to what people say, particularly the people who set the 7 explorers on the path to damnation, literal damnation for them, because there are little clues in it. And as I said, I don't honestly understand this movie. Not really, but that's part of the enjoyment of it. It's done so well that it feels like a very difficult puzzle as opposed to inept filmmaking. And I can respect a film or a movie. I sometimes find the word film used very pretentiously. I can accept the fact that a movie is challenging and perhaps a little more complex than I'm traditionally accustomed to seeing. Perfectly okay with that. I'm going to have to rewatch it at various points to see if it becomes any clearer. And as far as the name, Yellowbrickroad, there was... The people in this town seem to like the movie The Wizard of Oz, and therefore Yellowbrickroad. Though, if you recall that movie, the Yellowbrickroad did not lead to death. It could lead to problems. I think the Wicked Witch of the West was somewhere along that road, but conversely, it didn't lead, it wasn't, I should say, guaranteed damnation of the physical sort. This time, it seems to be the case. And once again, I don't necessarily understand the connection between the Wizard of Oz and the road being called the Yellowbrickroad. I don't quite get it, but that's okay because, once again, it's a very challenging movie in lots of ways. And I think that the more you watch it, the better you understand it, and the more interesting it gets. I also have a theory, though. I mentioned earlier that I think what's happening in the movie is very much inevitable for the characters. And the reason I think that's the case is because I don't think it really happens in the physical sense. Well, I should say, I don't think the journey they take along the Yellowbrickroad happens in the physical sense. And I think this because relatively early in the movie, when they're trying to determine where the beginning of the road is, they're there already. And it's a movie theater. That movie theater is a pivotal character in the movie. And as I said earlier, pay close attention to what people say, because there are points that seem to illustrate that these people are caught in a movie, that they're in a hell uniquely their own, and they just don't know it. And by them embarking upon the Yellowbrickroad, it only carries out a predetermined fate, that there was nowhere else they could go. There was nowhere they could hide to avoid it. It was their destiny, and it's a terrible destiny. Very good movie, terrible destiny. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow.